So, 5.7 has dropped, and the stream of information was almost unending. We got confirmation about Descenders, Stella Fortuna, the False Sky, and the Sustainer of the World's Boundaries. We've even now witnessed Genshin's own version of the ruthless IPC of the Star Rail universe, and blatant information about the nature of the Abyss and space travel. No doubt, your mind is teeming with questions, and I can hardly contain my excitement to answer them. A Space and Time for You was a pivotal quest, and by the end of this video, you'll be ready for the roller coaster that is going to be Nod Cry. This is the Unlikely Genshin Gamer, and it's time for some real answers. Welcome to Lore Class. The first order of business is to explain the now nearly completed timeline of events for Lumine and Aether's arrival and attempted escape from Teyvat, based on what the Abyss Traveler explains here. But before I can jump in, here's a word from the sponsor of today's video, Lootbar.
With the arrival of the 5.5 Cryo artifact set and the debut of Ikefi in 5.6, the long-awaited Cryo main DPS Skirk is finally ready to take the stage. If you're gearing up to pull for her and running low on Primogems, I've got the ultimate solution for you, Lootbar. With Lootbar, you can grab Genshin Impact's in-game currency for up to 25% less than the standard in-game price. A lot of popular KOLs choose to top up via Lootbar, and they all get the character. The top-up process is quick and effortless. All you have to do is select your preferred pack. Enter your UID, pick your server. Just a few minutes, your top-up will be safely and promptly credited to your account. Lootbar is a highly trusted platform with around 20,000 glowing positive reviews, including excellent ratings on Trustpilot. Here's a great bonus for all you new users. If you register using the link in the description or the pinned comment, you'll get an extra 10% discount coupon. Let's start topping up and get ready to welcome Skirk to our teams.
Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. Back to the timeline reveal, brought about by the aspiring young heroine, Deirdith, and the Shade of Time. In the first chapter of the We Will Be Reunited quest tree, we get our first clear idea of what happened 500 years ago. The traveler tells Dainslief that his first memories of Teyvat and Khaenriah are of when his sister is frantically waking him up to leave because of the calamity. And Dain notes that their encounter with the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles must have happened afterwards then. We also know that Lumine traveled throughout Teyvat twice. Once long before Aether woke up, looking for her brother, whose pod had landed far from hers. And after the cataclysm, when she and Dainslief scoured the world as lone survivors, looking for the freshly reseparated twin again. And now, we have the rest of the picture filling in the gap. In Khaenriah, a special orphanage was established during the Crimson Moon Dynasty, thousands of years ago, with the goal of locating special children from outer space, whose will and power could rival that of the world's gods, meaning a descender. Many, many years later, they found the twins, who were traveling together in search of a new home after the destruction of their own. The spaceship the twins had was equipped with specialized hibernation chambers to preserve them through the lengthy journey. Upon landing in Teyvat, however, Lumine, who awoke first, found herself stripped of her memories. But the kingdom of Khaenriah took her in. Confused but earnest, she accepted the devious King Ermin's proclamation of her becoming the heir to the throne and the hope and savior of the realm's people. she didn't remember her original status as the ruler of a lost glorious kingdom out there among the stars, or indeed the fact that she even had a twin. But the rulers of the kingdom of Khaenriah did not particularly care for that. They were most concerned with her ability to channel abyssal energy endlessly. And the abyss isn't a phenomenon unique to Teyvat. It is a universal force of darkness and power that can be found and does destroy worlds far, far away from Teyvat. It is the darkness that the heavenly principles fears. The Vinster King, as King Ermin was called, used the Golden Traveler as a conduit to supply the kingdom with unlimited abyssal energy. Skirk has implied that the Traveler's ability to absorb abyssal energy from others, healing them from their torment, is not as benign as it seems. The energy must go somewhere. Instead of purifying it, it appears they are simply vessels for it, remaining untouched as it flows through them, and the sinners and king realize this. Each sinner helped themselves to a piece. Surtalogi, Dainslief's best friend. Vedrfolnir, Dain's older brother. Rheindotter, Albedo's mother, and the two we have yet to meet, Roptatir the Wise and Rerir the Raker of Solnari. No doubt frighteningly powerful entities as well. When all hell broke loose, these five, who had the power to reverse it all, were nowhere to be found. And a series of unfortunate events unfolded instead. The princess, after having slowly regained many of her memories during her time in the kingdom, was always on the lookout for news about her lost brother. And during the height of the calamity, fate played a cruel joke on her, providing her that information she was desperate for, and in the process solidifying Khaenriah's destruction. In enters earnest, brave Deirdith. To be clear, Deirdith never lived in present-day Teyvat as anything besides a hilly churl. Instead, due to the traveler's unique constitution, Lumine's meddling with the ley lines, and Ishtaroth, the shade or ruler of time, interfering, Deirdith temporarily fell into the present. Let us remember that the ley lines of Teyvat are a system of memories which create the reality of the world. Imagine an author who has created a rich and diverse place in their mind's eye, and having the power to make their stories reality, they begin to transcribe those memories into a book which becomes real. Any memory, any tree or road, any building or person that is forgotten in the recollection doesn't make it into this reality. As the Abyss Order, all the twisted citizens of Khaenriah who had embraced the Abyss meditated to remember the Khaenriah of old. Someone remembered Deirdith. Deirdith of the past became a part of that new Atlas of Khaenriah. But the business of weaving new ley lines is messy, and apparently things can leak out. Suddenly, Deirdith existed in present-day Natlan, just enough to see the Traveler and Paimon, but not enough to see the monsters in this reality, or to know about any current news like who the Archon was. And she set things in motion. This is where it gets quite confusing, but stay with me as I explain the 3 hibernation keys. We will call the past Golden Age Khaenriah, the present with jealous Sitlali in it, Mawika's time, and the messy space that Deirdith ended up in is the blend between the two. In the Golden Age, Ether is asleep in his hibernation pod with his key. These pods are likely what made them appear to be stars as they entered Tevat long ago. And when Ether explains to Dain that he was inside of a meteor, asleep, before his sister woke him, the meteor was likely this pod. If the false sky with its false stars weren't in place, we might have been able to see their ship still docked out there. Golden Age Lumine does not know where he is and has been searching for a long time. Perhaps with Dain, even back then, seeing as he was a royal guard. And notably, both twins possess their keys. Dirdith exists then as well, as a kind, ambitious, half-blooded Khaenriahn. Mawika's time Ether, still possessing his own key, finds a hilichurl with one. Ether now has 2 keys on him. Mawika time Dirdith, as a hilichurl, flees the scene, perhaps in shame, just in time for Golden Age Dirdith to tumble out of the Khaenriahn memories and run into Ether for help. She is still in her past, in Golden Age Khaenriah, but it has overlapped. The monsters she is running from that he must hold her hand to see are in the past. By and by, he eventually gives her a memento to use to convince Lumine that he has been found, in the form of the second key he should not have. Then, as the ley line weaving reaches completion, the realities return to their separate states, but Dirdith still has the key that she carried with her from Mawika Age Ether. When she finds Lumine, she brings her what seems like great news. But Lumine is the heir to a kingdom now, one caught in the throes of a devastating calamity, and they need her power and guidance. But Ether has been lost for years. She had to see him. And so, she made the decision to abandon her newfound people, and found not only was Ether fine, but he was still hibernating with his key. The confounding situation aside, she decided then and there that this world was not meant for them, and that they should simply leave. And the rest is known by all Genshin players. They tried to fly away, perhaps back to the mothership, and were blocked by the sustainer of heavenly principles. Now she had lost everything. Separated from her brother again, and having abandoned her new subjects for a chance at escape, that was blocked. Perhaps you are wondering why I titled this video, How Lumine Became a Hypocrite, when things went so sadly for her. Or maybe you see the irony already. The level of dedication that Dainslief had to the safety of his nation during those tragic times never wavered as far as we know. Even beyond death, his men faithfully carried out his command to save the people, commoner and noble alike. But she made the difficult, but very real decision to cut her losses and leave with her brother. And there are many that resented her for this. How then can she say that Dain abandoned his people, making him her enemy? Is it just because he was not willing to use the power of the Abyss to fix it back? Her plan to rebuild Khaenriah and collect the backing of the entire world to overthrow the warden of this prison, the heavenly principles, is endlessly bold. But she has many backers. Many of those abandoned by her, now suffering from the curse of immortality, and yet still enamored by the wonders of the power of the Abyss, have chosen to rally around her anyway. But not everyone. Interestingly, the noble Albric family, an ancient family line from the days of the Crimson Moon dynasty, seems to be very central to this schism between the peoples that were left. Clothar Albric, obsessed with saving his cursed Hilichurl son, learned of just how powerful the Abyss could be. Enough so to break the curse of immortality and heal the mind of Khaenriah, his son. All this from Dainslief's elder brother, one of the sinners responsible for the fall. The mighty visionary Vedrfolnir, whose prophecies never failed. Clothar pledged his allegiance to the Abyss, formed the Abyss Order, whose goal was now to begin the Loom of Fate project, and follow the princess to certain glory and restoration. Using abyssal power, his followers became powerful demons, minds still intact for the most part, and capable of sneaking around Teyvat, setting plans in motion. But, on the other hand, there was Anfortas Albrecht, perhaps a brother to Clothar, a high captain of Khaenriah's forces, the equivalent of a 5-star general. He chose a different route, ignoring the orders of King Ermin, the Vinster king, that ordained the traveler heir to the throne. She was gone, having abandoned the people. So, he took matters into his own hands, ruling as regent himself, and still fighting to the last to push back the forces of the Abyss which he had no love for. He eventually died in battle in Sumeru, the scene of one of, if not the worst battle of the Cataclysm. When Jean of the Knights of Favonius offers to tell us the story of the heroic king of Khaenriah, I doubt she meant the Vinster king, or one before him. Likely, Regent King Anfortas is whose deeds have made it into the history books. This puts Kaeya in a unique position, and I'm glad more information regarding his status as a pure-blooded Khaenriahn was addressed in this quest. Kaeya is a pureblood. Dain has as much as said so. Dainslief explained that for Deirdith to have existed properly in present-day Teyvat, she would have to be the descendant of pure-blood parents. This was made clear in the Perenary book as well. No matter how far back the blood mixing is, the children of Khaenriahns with Teyvat blood in their veins will become Hilichurls once they reach the surface world. When Paimon mentions that if Deirdith were a pure-blood descendant in this way, then the only difference between her and Kaeya would be how remote the location they were raised in was, Dain did not correct her. And he is obviously keeping an eye on Kaeya, even spying on him in Sumeru because of his close ties to the Abyss Order, Dain's sworn enemy. I would be quite surprised if he were wrong about whether Kaeya is a half-blood or a noble. Furthermore, the Khaenriahn nobility seemed to value purity, which is why Clothar's Mondstadt wife, who became Khaenriah's mother, was not approved of by his family. Kaeya represents the current descendant of a long and prestigious line, and I think we can lay to rest the question of whether he is mixed, and instead focus on whether his father meant him to become regent one day instead of the abyss-loving princess. While we are on the topic of long-standing sources of information, let's talk about the Gnostic hymn cutscene, which now parallels the story of the travelers so closely, I can't imagine there are any naysayers left. Watch.
Once, there was a glorious kingdom established among the heavens. From that kingdom came a crowned heir, tasked with seeking out the Genesis Pearl from the kingdom of darkness.
Once, she had been a scion of a lost, glorious kingdom, bearing the weight of an entire world.
But she was deceived, and the memory of her noble origins faded. She now believed that she was the queen of the kingdom of darkness.
Lumine did not know of the king's plans to use her for abyssal energy, and she lost her memories when she woke up in Khaenriah. She was told that she was the heir to the throne of Khaenriah and the savior of its people.
Take heart. A second crowned heir has already taken up the path where the first had stumbled. This is the story of your journey, of your tale to be told.
Honorary Knight Ether, with the armor of a Knights Templar, which is what the Knights of Favonius are based on, and Dragonspine Mountain in the background. It has always been about them. But the comparison is even stronger now. And now would probably be a good time to note that Venti knew this story somehow. Is said to know all stories, past, present, and future, in fact. Meaning, like his dear progenitor, the Shade of Time, he is aware of what happens throughout time. He may not be able to meddle with it like Ishtaroth can, and did, but he can know and hide it in stories. The burning question now is what is going to be each twin's next move? Where is Lumine going to put her newly reborn kingdom? Perhaps in the Sea of Flowers at the end that reminded her of her lost home? A sea of flowers very similar to the flowers at the end of the West Wind in Amphorius, in fact. And how does she plan to gather enough power and support to confront the heavenly principles? What is Ether's next move? The objective isn't find the twin anymore, nor even to find out why she's doing this anymore. Now, it's time to look at the facts from every angle and pick a side. Sounds like a perfect reason to travel to the mostly neutral nexus called Nodcry and find out more about the moons and the sky and the primordial one before making his choice. With all this talk of power and time, I have to mention the new information we've gotten about Stella Fortuna in Skirk's quest. Like I said, there was a lot to go over. This is really interesting. It means powerful people from the past have Stella Fortuna of their own, which then gradually become a new constellation with a new owner after they die. So as we activate Stella Fortuna for characters, their own constellation is being fulfilled. And the masterless star glitter and dust we collect from character wishes are exactly that. Fragments of stars that belong to no one, so they don't constitute a stella yet. Instead, if you can combine enough of them, 25 particles of dust to form a glittering shard, or 5 glitter to create an entire star, then you can reignite another part of a constellation. And no person has more than 6 stars to their name. That's why the extra again become masterless. So then here's another thought. Since the all-devouring narwhal, with its terrifying devouring capabilities, can slurp up Stella Fortuna from the false sky, could that mean the reason Ajax's constellation is Monoceros Kali is because his original one is gone? Or maybe he was so young when waking it up that none of the new stars had been lit yet, and so the course of the shape it took was free to follow the whale now. Who knows? But Layla hypothesized that the ley lines reflect the constellations, so maybe the shifting constellations are a product of the preordained yet still fluid series of memories in the ley lines. Nilu could be using Nabu Malikata's Stella Fortuna, and that's why she's so similar to the goddess of flowers. The Archons use the ones of their predecessor. Or, in the case of people like Zhongli, his stars have only ever belonged to him. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. Now, what say we talk about Alice? Or should I say, she who sustains the world's boundaries? What an illustrious title. In my last video, I mentioned that the witches, or at least some of them, could actually be Seelies who didn't lose their memories. With Skirk's voice line about Nicole, a witch, who is now a human even though she used to be something else. And the weapon lore of Azurelight listing 4 Seelies who were scattered throughout the world, I feel like this has more of a chance of being true. But still, Alice. It's actually been hinted at a few times that she had such a powerful and necessary responsibility, like in Wanderer's Collected Miscellany, and most clearly in the description for one of those exclusive collaboration wings. In The Wings of Feasting, where she talks to Klee after telling her a story about battered and fried dragon, chicken, from another world. She says, Teyvat's borders have grown fragile these past 2 years. Looks like Mummy is going to have to get busy. According to Skirk, Alice is in charge of letting people in and monitoring these visitors. When Skirk decided to return to Teyvat, her master's homeworld, to figure out a way to get strong enough to survive Surtalogi's final test, Alice is who assessed her motives, and unlike other worlds Skirk had visited, who were exceedingly wary of her association with the calamity that is Surtalogi, Alice let her in, charged her not to meddle, and reminded her that she needn't burn herself out. Sometimes a girl needs a moment for some self-care. Kind, mysterious, powerful Alice. An apparent observer of sorts, watching the world's events unfold like a Lewis Carroll storybook. Before I wrap this up, I want to mention Skirk's view of the heavenly principles from her voice lines, and how it's fueling my theory from the Dragons video about how Fanes, Finon, and Kevin are all cut from the same cloth, all using drastic measures to protect a world they dearly love. A romantic and sheltering, yet iron-fisted approach to preserving humanity. A sheltered eternity, like I've been saying all along. The forces that roam the universe, like the unscrupulous merchants who decimated Skirk's world while she was a kid, seem to be what the Primordial One is so intent on sealing out. But for reasons not completely known, they are also hell-bent on keeping everything in as well. Alice even told Skirk not to let people know that she was from outer space. The thing they are so afraid of seems to be lurking out there, biding its time to get in. Who knows if what both Lumine and the Tsaritsa are individually planning to do against the heavenly principles doesn't instead backfire and destroy the world's only defenses. So, there is much to discuss in the comments. Like how Surtalogi was apparently a prison baby before he was trained as a knight. Or how the Lord of the Night, who seems to love making deals, has squeezed some sort of agreement out of the Abyss Twin in exchange for ley line weaving room. Or how Dane's older brother seems to still be looking out for him, having supplied him with the magical ring that sustains him through the years. Nibelung's ring, perhaps? And I don't know who else noticed it, But Skirk is very much not a human, with a strange half-wing protruding from one side of her back. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts so we can discuss like the good old days. As always, like, share, and subscribe because it helps me to grow. And I know that if you've made it this far, you want me to grow. So give me a hand. Good luck to everyone wishing for Skirk, and I'll see you in the next one.